This is Colin Dixon with nScreen Media, and I'm talking with Malik Kahn, who is Executive Chairman and Co-founder of LTN Global. Welcome, Malik.
Thank you, Colin.
Glad to be here. We're going to have a actually fascinating conversation about how much the production and distribution of media has shifted so dramatically over the last year or two. Maybe before we jump in there, Malik, you can just give us a thumbnail of LTN Global, because I'm sure a lot of people don't know LTN because you're the sort of power behind many other great services.
Well, happy to do it. We started our life building a really interesting and fast and very reliable network. A lot of people know us for our transport and transmission business. And over the last 2.5 years, we are talking, as we talk to customers and see the amount of disruption in the industry, guided by some of the things that we can do really well because we are, a very fast, very reliable network. We started buying some workflow pieces that we thought fit really well within that construct, and leveraged that network and enabled us to offer more services. So we acquired 2 companies in the IP remote production area. This is a market growing at about 60% a year, according to Omdia. Very exciting and, of course, very scary world because everything is morphing so quickly. We bought a company called Crystal, which is in the metadata signaling business. And then we bought a company called Make TV in Germany, that's in the content exchange business in the cloud. All 3 of these businesses are highly dependent on our ability to transport feeds in and out of locations really rapidly. So we thought this was good leverage.
So why don't we spend a moment talking about each of those 3 areas, because I think that's really fascinating, and it sort of really typifies how the production and distribution of media has really changed. So why don't we start off with IP production? Let's talk about the radical shift there that you've shifted your business to try and help grow.
Sure. I mean, it was shifting in a very disruptive way before COVID, and I think COVID really had kind of a accelerant kind of an impact on it. So what was happening before that was, the number of events, a number of things and a number of outlets that want events was growing rapidly, and so you had a lot of pressure on on-site production capacity, and on-site production costs were getting way out of line with what needed to happen for people like ESPN3, who suddenly found that they have to do 10,000 events. And to grow from a few thousand to tens of thousands, really hard to do that at the same cost point. So there was a large amount of movement towards REMI production or remote production. 2/3 of it was in-house, and 1/3 of it was utilizing others. What has happened since is remarkable. I mean, the whole concept of virtualization, fan engagement, audience participation, the ability to kind of create very fancy graphics for representing, audiences. All of these things are new things that have emerged over the last year and a half. And so in our business, we've built a very significant facility in the Kansas City area. It's about 30,000 square foot facility that has all kinds of production and production-related workflows where we can bring in uncompressed or compressed feeds from any event anywhere in the world, and perform a variety of workflows on it, from producing the event, switching the videos, adding closed captioning to it, and a variety of other things that we can now do. Even announcers are now virtualized, that they don't actually have to be at the event, believe it or not. So anyways, this has been the direction that we've pursued, and it's been very successfully implemented with customers.
Yeah, it sounds like a very good timing with the remote production, the necessity for introducing remote production that has been brought on by the virus. Let's talk about metadata signaling. I don't think people will be familiar with what metadata signaling is. What's going on there, and tell us about that.
Well, in the world that I grew up in, you had one feed that just got broadcast to millions of people, and so the bulk of the effort was on creating good content that millions of people would watch, and that was in part due to technology, and in part due to lack of really a way to bring information back from the receiver. We didn't know Nielsen, a company, got created because they can tell the content owners a little bit more about how their content is being viewed, or who's viewing it, or for how long. And that's because it was a broadcast business, one way. Of course, things have changed a lot. People like us are creating IP highways that are two-way, where you can exchange information. So the importance of data in general has risen. And then there are some very specific things that have to do with metadata. Metadata is data associated with a specific frame of a video. And we've built a signaling layer that allows us to, again, use our network and use the underlying core competence we have in that area to be able to deliver signaling that's either embedded inside the video or is out of band but has to arrive at the same time as a particular frame. And we've kind of now created an infrastructure that allows us to take anybody's signal and send it to anybody who needs it. This signaling is in the first couple of use cases I can kind of talk a little bit about. We're working with Vizio and Fox and other channel owners to swap out a generic ad in a particular spot with an ad specific to the household that owns that Vizio TV, because you can take frame accurate signaling about where the ad break begins and when it ends, and be able to take data, demographic data from the household, decide which of the many versions of that ad is most appropriate for that particular household, and then frame accurately insert that new ad in. So that's just one example of how metadata is being used to create customization and localization and regionalization, because it's now possible to do all of that. So we play a role in that.
So that's fascinating. And that's a great example of how metadata has gone from this very static thing, as you said at the beginning, that was Nielsen, to a very dynamic thing. Let's look at the third area, which is content exchange. And this is one of the areas I think that is really pretty unique about the IP environment. Suddenly there are all of these distribution destinations that companies want to reach with their content, and it has become fantastically complex. So tell us what you're doing there in content exchange, in content distribution.
You nailed it in your introduction. It has become incredibly complex because, again, one size no longer fits all, right? So, and I'll take two viewpoints. I'll take the viewpoint of the sender and the viewpoint of the receiver. From a sender's point of view, if I have valuable content, I want that content to be bought by as many endpoints as possible. But the issue with many of those endpoints is, some endpoints are technologically very different from others. Hulu is very different from Comcast or B-Sky-B. Somebody watching it on an iPhone is very different from somebody watching it on a television set connected to a QAM, HFC cable. So the formats with which people want to receive the information is changing. The bit rates and the standards that they follow is very different. And then deeper still on the workflow, one person's closed captioning doesn't meet the needs of another person's closed captioning. Ads may be very different. The program content sometimes gets switched off or on depending on licensing and rights management. So we bought Make TV last year, and they have a cloud-based exchange platform that allows us to ingest content in any format with any degree of post-production, either completely post-produced or very roughly produced. Add pieces of value on top of that, whether it's closed captioning, whether it's more, audio production, whether it's versioning, whether it's formatting, whether it's standards conversion, whether it's, anyway, there's a whole bunch of different workflows that we can add to that. And then we can deliver that same feed in one form to Twitch, in another form to TV Tokyo, in another form to Hulu, and in another form to an MVPD. And we can do it all inside the cloud, so you can receive. And because we have, again, our underlying technology is built, everything is built around a really fast network, very reliable network. We rely on that network to do all of this morphing and exchanging and switching inside the cloud, and then we can deliver it via the cloud to anybody in the world. And that business is really very exciting because it enables everyone to win in that loop, whether it's the content provider or the distributor of the content or the consumer of the content. Everyone wins because they get something specifically designed for them without having the cost of doing 1,000 variants.
And I suspect the service providers, the ones that have the content and are distributing it, are the most happy because this has become a very, very complex part of their back-end services. So you're simplifying things pretty dramatically. Malik, you've been fabulous describing these three areas that you're focused on. Very important areas for us to address. I hope you'll come back and tell us about some of the other interesting projects and some of the other interesting areas that you're looking to go into.
Happy to do it. Thank you for inviting me, Colin. This was great. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And this has been Colin Dixon with nScreen Media. We'll see you again next time.